Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet.
Dr. Doreen Grand-Pichet is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen.
That takes care of my autistic grandson who has sensory processing nonverbal. I can have them Thursday through Saturday, and I'm trying to get respite, but I'm having a hard time getting it. I live in Madera County, California. And we had addressed this just at the last week, but she wrote in again, so I don't think she saw it. I just want to say, for those of you who are in the California area, make sure that first you become a regional center client, right? And you might go, oh, but I don't get that much out of being a regional center client. That's all about to change because self-determination is going to be there for everyone by next year. So make sure that you sign up to be a regional center client, jump through all of those hoops. Then you must sign up for Medi-Cal. And I know that, again, you go, oh, I don't know if it's worth it. It's a lot of paperwork. Yes, it's absolutely worth it. Because once you sign up for Medi-Cal, please sign up for IHSS. In-home health support services. What that does is makes you eligible to get more respite, because you'll get some respite from the regional center. Once you sign up for Medi-Cal, that respite from the regional center will cost you $0, which is a very good thing, right? And when you get IHSS, you will get more respite, and they will pay you or someone else for anything that is above and beyond that you have to do for your child that you wouldn't have had to do for a neurotypical child. So, you know, for a 4-year-old, most 4-year-olds need help getting dressed, right?
Absolutely,
So they're not going to pay you for dressing a 4-year-old, but if you have a 14-year-old and he needs help getting dressed, they will pay you for the time that it takes to dress him.
Very good.
If you have to drive them to medical appointments, they will pay you from the time that you leave your house until you get to the medical appointment.
Perfect.
Because that's something you wouldn't have to do for a neurotypical child.
Right.
And the whole idea behind that, the great state of California believes that some families want to keep these individuals at home and that should be honored, but you shouldn't be penalized for that.
That's right.
You should be, rewarded for that, and somebody should help you to do that. And the fact is, if they didn't live with you, they would live someplace else, and it would cost the state something else. So they want to help you. And for those of you who are like, well, I can't get my child to the center because I would have to leave work. Well, then you can contract somebody. You pick who you want. It could be your brother-in-law who drives well, and you pay them to drive your child to the center. Somebody gets paid. In some cases, it's the moms. And I will say that,
It's a great benefit, honestly.
I wished I had known about it.
Right, well, and I wish it was more than just California. This is very much California specific, and it's really good.
It is California specific. There are some little programs in other states, but nothing like in California. But I do want to say that anymore, we encourage everyone in every state, if you have a child with autism, to sign up for whatever the Medicare program is in your state, because there are some benefits to that. But in the state of California, it is that 3-step process, and it takes a long time. First, the regional center takes a while.
Yes.
Then,
Medi-Cal sign up.
Medi-Cal sign up takes a while, but have your regional center person help you to do the IHSS paperwork, because it starts your submission starts on the day that you put it in, and it might take 8 months, but then they give you a check back to the first day that you put it in.
That's amazing.
And sometimes for families, that is the difference of being homeless.
That's amazing.
Right? It's absolutely amazing.
That's
so
amazing.
It's a great investment for your time, and it makes things like the respite very possible.
Wonderful.
That is the thing to do. Okay, so. All right, moving on, let's get into some questions that you guys,
Sounds good.
Somebody on Facebook yesterday wrote in and said, so I wish I could figure out how to get my son excited for speech therapy. It's Fridays and it takes away from his routine.
Right.
And so what would you suggest for that?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things you can do whenever, just always remember when you have to, when you're placing a demand or doing something that's unpleasant, then increase the reinforcers, right? So that means basically on Fridays, after speech therapy, your son should get some type of reward that he doesn't get the rest of the week. First of all, identify what that is and what's meaningful to him. And if it's just about, if his discomfort is just because he's giving up his routine, then it's not a big deal. You just reward it and he will get used to it. But please also make sure that you observe his speech sessions and make sure that it's nothing other than increased demand, and that's why he doesn't like it. But just reward. I mean, any kind of, I always tell people, like, the days that you're taking your child to see a doctor, dentist, pediatrician, they're going to get a shot. Anything like that, just increase reward on those days.
I loved, yesterday I went to leave the building and somebody made the mistake of telling me that I was a good parent, and I was like, oh, you have no idea. And I said, I'm about to be the most unpopular person on the block because I was forcing my son to go with me to decorate Christmas trees for the Sensitive Santa event.
Oh, right.
And I knew for sure that there were other things on his agenda, you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
And because I'm here in this building, the person said, what's the reinforcer that you're going to be offering?
there you go.
And I said, oh, well, no, he's getting Zankou chicken for dinner.
There you go.
And because as a parent, you just know that, like, there's some things that you're going to ask your child to do.
They don't want to do.
And my kid is so well attuned to this and knows that he gets a paycheck for things. And I picked him up and I was like, okay, you're not going to be happy, but here's
Afterwards, we'll go to
here's what we
Zankou.
have to go do. And he was like, what are we having for dinner? And I was like, how does Zankou? And he was like, I'm all good. Let's go get these trees decorated, right?
Oh, that's so sweet.
Right?
Is Zankou his favorite?
Well, it's one of his favorites.
That's
Zankou
good.
is, it's, I don't know if you've ever had it.
Oh, yes, it's fantastic.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
So, in any case, and your kids get used to that so that you don't have to go through the big rigmarole of, what.
That's right.
And then, of course, there'll be somebody who will write in and go, but then, and actually we have a question on here, what's the difference between bribing and reinforcing? Maybe we should jump to that one.
Sure, absolutely.
And they said, hi, Shannon, what's the difference between bribing and reinforcing? Love your show and energy. We love you back.
That's awesome.
But what is the difference?
So bribing, first of all, let's just say bribing is very similar to reinforcing. It's a reminder of a reinforcer coming. So that's basically the answer. Reinforcers occur after the fact. They are things that you give to reward a behavior that has occurred. Bribing, which we would classify as a discriminative stimulus, or SD, is basically the reminder that a reinforcer is coming. So it occurs before the behavior has taken place. And with that said, there's nothing wrong with bribing. We call it bribing. We give it a bad name. I mean, bribing is, the negative associated with bribing is has to do with people paying for bad things to happen or whatever it is. But the truth is, all you're doing is you're reminding someone that there's a reward in it for you. And if they do the behavior, they get the reward.
And I think a lot of what parents worry about is that, well, they'll say, well, I want him to do it because that's the right thing to do.
Right.
And if every time I give him something, then he'll never learn. And I just want to say, from a parent perspective of somebody who's gone through this, nothing could be further from the truth. We stopped rewarding everything and have more of, I think, what you guys call the
natural reinforcers.
Well, it's the slot machine that sometimes you win and sometimes you
Variable
don't.
ratio.
Okay, we call it the slot machine. And so sometimes he gets something and sometimes he doesn't. It just sort of depends. But I see my child being helpful to other people. And doing things because they're the right thing to do, and because he enjoys now how people treat him when he's doing those kinds of things.
That's right.
So it maintains itself in so many different ways, and then there's a reinforcer afterwards.
And that's life. I mean, if you look at everything that we do in life, there's a built-in reinforcer for things, right? So one could say, if you tell someone, go do this job and you will get paid $50,000, that's a bribe.
Yeah.
Right? All it is a reminder of the reward. And by the way, no one would go to work if they didn't have the reward of money. Right?
Right.
So everything we do is based on some sort of reward that we are hoping to gain by it. Now, it's not always a reward that's outside of the actual act. In some cases, we're just motivated, like you said. The reward comes from the feeling you have that you just helped someone. The reward comes from the feeling you have that you made your parents proud. And that's the one I always use as an example with parents, because a lot of times our kids are not yet aware, because remember, Shannon, it goes back to that whole theory of mind thing that we talk about, right? So like typically developing kids often are extremely aware of how their parents feel from day one and what their parents are thinking. You know, what's in my mom's mind. This is the beginning of executive function, joint attention. You look at mom, you realize mom is looking at that and finding it funny, so maybe I should as well. These are some of the things where it's almost like mind reading. And when you can read the mind of your parents, you know doing your homework makes them proud. If they're proud, they give you a hug. That's the reward you want. And with our kids, a lot of times they can't recognize those key features. And secondly, they don't really care about those. They're not reinforcing to our kids. To get a hug from mom is not necessarily the reward the child's looking for.
Right.
They find it more rewarding to perhaps like do something more self-stimulatory.
Right.
So why would I then socialize? Because that in itself is aversive, and I don't really care if somebody gives me a hug about it. You know what I mean? So the contingencies are different. So we have to make it more obvious for our kids initially.
Yes.
And as Shannon said, over time, it becomes very, very easy to reduce those rewards. And you do actually reduce them to variable ratio, variable interval schedules, and you make it so that it's more like real life.
Yeah.
In real life, you know, you can do a good deed. You don't always get rewarded for it.
Right.
But you're used to it.
Right. And I think that our kiddos get they get very comfortable, and I don't want to use the word addicted, but they really like it when things are going well and are easy,
Right.
like a lot of us, right?
Absolutely.
And if I just have to do this and it makes mom happy, then that makes me happy,
Right.
is how I
Over
see
time.
him look at it. Yeah.
And the other thing that's kind of interesting with this whole schedules of reinforcement, a lot of people think that if you reward a behavior every single time it occurs, when you stop rewarding every single time it occurs, the behavior is going to stop. That's the opposite of the truth. When you have a continuous schedule of reinforcement, that means I reward every single time. And if I gradually now reduce it, that behavior actually never goes away, because psychologically what's happening is the individual, the person is always thinking, wait, do I need to do 2 more times to get this reward? Where's that reward? I'm going to keep doing it. That's where variable ratio leads to no extinction. Like a behavior will never go away if you occasionally reward it.
Yes. Absolutely.
So don't worry.
And life gets good when this when these kinds of things happen. It just gets so much easier.
Absolutely. So bribe away.
Yes, bribe away.
Don't worry.
And don't feel guilty about it, because it works. Hey, thanks for watching Autism Live. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.